All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I
Hi.
have a very special guest here today. I have Lacie. Say hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You are so welcome, and we're so excited to have you. And Lacie is a wife and a mother and has this amazing best-selling book and a decade of a story and an experience and just like it's gonna pull at your heartstrings and you're just gonna absolutely love her just like I do. So welcome, Lacie. We're happy to have you.
I appreciate that so much, Jess. Thank you. And I'm so happy to be here. I cannot wait to talk with you.
Awesome. Thank you. So your story kind of begins when your son was 3 months old. So you ran into something. Not only were you a first time mom, which we all know as first time moms, you're already going, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Am I going to screw this kid up? What is happening every day? You
Third, enough. Yes.
you then on top of that got this diagnosis and you were like, oh my God. So talk us through kind of like where this started and what happened, and we'll move into all the amazing things that are to come.
Okay. Sounds good. So, I was a new mom and I was trying to catch and get my way and find my way as a new parent. And 4 months into his life, we were in a state of bliss. We were completely happy. Um, We thought he was absolutely perfect, and we go into the 4-month appointment, and we come out of that appointment and get sent directly down to Children's Hospital because he had tiny little movements in his eyes, and his head was expanding at a very fast rate. That sent us to the emergency room and then to eventually, the oncology floor because he was diagnosed with this very hard, impossible situation. It was a borderline hydrocephalus, which meant he was gaining water on the brain very quickly, which is not good. There's not a lot of room in there. And he also had a giant tumor that was blocking the fluid that usually drains. So he was basically a ticking time bomb. So we had a diagnosis of an optic pathway glioma brain tumor, borderline hydrocephalus. They thought he had happy baby syndrome because he was so happy all the time. But we later found out that he was just a happy baby. I thought that was a big win. But the the seriousness of the situation was that it was a very impossible situation. We could not operate. It was inoperable. So we looked at this situation like, okay, what do? We need hope. And I remember sitting in that hospital saying, you got to give me something. I need a path. I need somewhere or some way through this.
Yep.
And there was none to be found. And I just remember the doctor looking back at us, my father-in-law yelling out from the sidelines, going, you got to give some hope to these kids.
Yeah.
I was 25 at the time. I was really young, and my husband was 29. I mean, we were babies, and she looks back in the room and the doctor says, you have a lot of love in this room. And that was it. That was our only hope. And I said, okay, well, fine, I'll focus on that. We went from there, and a series of events took place that I write about in You Were Born to Do This. And the series of events were a lot of things that I think everyone experiences at some point that goes through a diagnosis, something hard, moments of surrender, moments of this helplessness, but then also I'm determined. I got to find some way,
Yep.
right? We all have that.
Yep.
So that's where it all started. Now,
Yes.
as far as all the stories, you tell me which direction we're going in, and I will share.
No, you're exactly right. And I wasn't, you were the mother of an infant that was going through this diagnosis. Whereas on the flip side, I was the patient and I was an adult. I was 38, 39 years old. And I had my mom on the opposite side where she was like, I want to be there to help and support you. Also, you're an adult, so it was kind of different boundaries, but still at the same time, you're exactly right. You're in this hard, dark season. And I know you state some of this in your book. You had an experience when you were in the hospital room where you basically just wanted to close into a dark corner and just close the world off and be like, can I wake up now? This has to be a dream.
Pinching
And
myself because of that. Yes.
yes, it's so true. You want to just pull in and be like, this cannot be real. And I did that for myself personally. And you were doing that for your child because your child had no clue. Jimmy had no idea. He was the happiest baby and now the happiest teenager. Like,
Yes.
I just love following your family because you all radiate this just pure joy, happiness, like well-being about you because of being in that hard time. And a lot of times, there's the quote of like, hard climbs bring beautiful views.
That's true.
And when you're in that hard season, I always think, okay, what's the silver lining?
Well,
What's that positive step that we can just take one step to have one win, right? So you talk about that in your book.
yeah, you pinned it though right there. A lot of people don't know, or I don't think they think about looking for the silver lining in the moment where everything falls apart.
Yeah.
After, before, if you're outside of it, but a lot, so I think that's the very big secret to all of the things that we go through in life. If you can somehow, in the middle of all the chaos,
Yep.
look for the silver lining, create an imaginary world in your head of what you want to create. If
Yep.
you can do that in the middle of all the chaos, you will find your way through.
Correct. 110%. I believe in that. And even in your book, you talk about how you walked through doing affirmations and positive thinking and doing visualizations and like surrendering. And you talk about everything I did during my battle. I did the exact same thing. And look where we are now, right? Because yes, we knew what the reality was. And this is what I've said to people for many years. I knew the reality. I wasn't willing to stay
yeah.
in that reality because
Yeah.
I had to pull myself through it to do life. I wasn't willing to accept that and sit and just play the why me, why me. I wasn't doing that. I was not going to be a victim. And you also didn't play the victim. You knew reality and you kept going and you kept asking and you questioned. And I think that's what a lot of people forget is that it's okay to question the doctor.
And I think that's a big point too, right? So we go in and we think this doctor's going to fix everything. I'm going to walk out of here and I'm going to have this beautiful plan in place. And I think that's where we need to kind of uh, partner with our doctors and our medical team and every single person that works with us. If you go in with the mentality of partnering with people
Yep.
and say, okay, this doctor's going to have a lot of the answers, but not all of them.
Yep.
And I'm going to need to figure out what I can add, what kind of questions I can add that's going to help use their brilliant minds, pull out all the ideas. If you get adversarial, everything shuts off.
Yep.
If you get angry, upset, all those emotions that we all have during those times because you're in it. If you can somehow say to yourself, this person in front of me is going to help me, but I have to help them help me.
Yes.
I think that is a huge mindset that we can have in any kind of medical situation, any kind of challenging situation at all.
Yes.
If you look at those people and say, I need your brilliant mind and I want to partner with you to help you find a way.
Yes.
It changes the whole game.
Yes.
And I only know that from, having brilliant medical doctors work with us, but not just the doctors, the nurses, the staff, every single person plays such a huge role that it's never just the doctors. It's everyone involved and they all matter.
Yes. They totally do. And you're right, because it's when you're able to come together and have an open platform, right? You open communication, you hear each other and you really listen and you say, okay, we're willing to do parts of this, but tell me what our other options are. It's not questioning and saying you're wrong and pointing fingers and
Right.
causing a fight and all of those kinds of things. It's sitting down and saying, okay, we're comfortable with this we're okay with, but this makes us, when we think it through, it's not sitting right. So I need better understanding, or is there another option to take that out? And you've done that. You did that in your book. You talk about that, how you asked Dr. J do we have to do all of these medications? He's 4 months old. Is it
The
safe for him? And you came to a better conclusion because of that.
the beautiful thing though is I wasn't thinking about asking questions. I was purely curious.
Yep.
And I think that we lose that as we get older. We overthink everything, everything's coming in. But honestly, I was like, well, why do we have to do that? And I know that like can sound um a little adversarial, but I was just like, well, wait a second, can we explore this a little bit? Can we talk about what our different options are? And they said, well, this is what protocol is, right? And that's usually what they say. I say, I know, but I'm kind of curious, like, what are we gonna do after he gets better? And I
Yeah.
remember them looking at me like, you are so naive, lady. This he's, we don't think he's gonna get better. And I'm going, but I think he is. So let's explore it.
Yeah.
And it's this beautiful exploration of curiosity. Can we go down a couple different paths together and
Mhm.
maybe open up that door that
Yep.
wasn't there before because you're working together? So yeah, and I think that's a universal thing. Like, how many times have you been in a doctor appointment or something where you're like, well, I'm curious about this. Tell me more about it. And all of a sudden an idea comes up or
Mhm.
something different appears that we couldn't see prior. I
Yes.
think that's the beauty of being curious and saying, "Well, let's see if there's something else here we cannot see. What about this?" You
Yes.
know? And
Yes.
I think that silver lining comes into play too, because I was looking for the silver lining. I was like, "Come on. Something good gotta come on here." And then something would pop into my mind, and I would say, "Well, what about this?"
Hmm.
The doctor said, "Okay, I hear you. Let's talk more about it." I think that curiosity is something we need to tap into as a skill set.
Yes.
We're taught as adults to like affirm, to manifest in our goals and all these things. But what about in real life? What if
Hmm.
we overlaid all the stuff that we do for jobs or um, you know, the responsibilities we have in real life, right? What if we overlay them when something goes wrong?
Yes.
Let's manifest in, let's visualize, let's take something
Yep.
that's seemingly impossible at the moment and let's pretend like we can do it.
Yes. Yep.
I-
It's the same thing. It, like you're saying, it's basically a copy repeat from what you do in career world and home life to hard times and in rough seasons and all those things, because it really works. And you and I are actual, we're proving it. We're here, we are telling these stories of what we've been through and how we did it, and it really works. You just have to believe in it.
So I watch a couple TED Talks, right? I always feel like I'm trying to depict the experience. And
Mhm.
that's hard to do. I think I did an okay job in the book, but I'm always looking for that next level. How can I depict the experience? So I watch a woman that is literally a resilience expert on the TED Talk. And she's talking about like what happened to her. She ended up being a resiliency expert and then ended up having a great loss in her life and ended up being on the other end, like where we were. We were on the other end. And all of a sudden, she didn't want to hear all the to dos and all the things that she was giving advice for. And she said, you know what I really needed? And I related to this completely. I just needed hope.
Yeah.
I needed a way through.
Yep.
And I remember going, me too. That's what
Yes.
I did. And then she said one key thing I think that can resonate with a lot of people. She said, but I was grieving, right? She was grieving. And I think we grieve. Like I think we grieve the lives we're never gonna live or what we aren't gonna be able to do. Those are kind of like, we grieve in our own ways. So I was grieving and she said, I just wanted some control over my grieving. I didn't want to be this victim in it, like you said
Yep.
before. I wanted to have some idea of how I could steer this wheel a little bit. And so I was not going to let myself fall. I was going to say, okay, I can do something. And if I can do something, I'm going to work on me. And if I'm going
Yep.
to work on me, that'll at least help the situation. And I'm telling you,
Yep.
that really got me to
Yep.
be able to do those kind of things and to be able to have some type of just push to be able to push a little bit and to be able to help, pivot the scene or the reality.
Yeah.
Uh it works.
Yes. It
So,
it 100% does. I totally align with that, and I agree with her wholeheartedly.
right? Did you have that moment just like in your journey where you felt like, okay, I can either fall or I can pick myself up and I can try to keep moving forward?
Mhm. More than once. And my background up to that point was in the spa and wellness industry. So I was constantly in that realm of wellness and thinking and how do you take care of yourself better and from a holistic perspective, and like this high level of, okay, yeah, I see your reality. I'm not going to do that. But if I have to do that, then I'm going to do it from the best place possible. And I had a couple times where I remember I completely just dropped and broke down and cried my eyes out hard. And my husband and I had a promise from the beginning. He said, I will give you 5 minutes. When you hit that breaking point, I will give you 5 minutes to really get it out, kick and scream, whatever it is you need to do. And then we're going to regroup and refocus, because you have to get through this. And you can't do that by doing that.
Right.
And there were a couple times where I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make it through the next 6 months. And one day it was like, I woke up and I was like, you know what? I started to visualize myself healthy, well, back to work, doing all the things I love doing. And it happened because I put my focus into that instead of putting my focus into
how hard
falling and staying broken apart and just dwelling in the hard, you know?
I feel like there's a universal feeling that also happened to me in every phase of the last 14 years with Jimmy. And this one was tricky to depict. And I think in the last 3 or 4 years is I've been able to actually put words to it. And it's funny when I share it and I'm hearing it in little tidbits of your story. It's this moment of I'm going to surrender not to the reality. You're going to surrender your fears. You surrender to what you're futuring that hasn't happened yet. That's bad.
Yep.
And it's almost like this whole release. And you're like, I'm going to let that float off into wherever it's going to go. And
Yep.
I'm going to focus on what I can do. And
Yep.
I have this kind of sort of a meditation that I talk about in the book. And it's okay, I surrender all my fears. I trust what happens next. That's the hardest one to really mean it, because we don't always really mean it. But I trust what's going to happen next. I'm visualizing a bright future. But whatever it is, and I pray to God. So I always go, okay, God, this or better.
Yep.
This or better. And I trust you. And so whatever happens next, even if it's not the exact picture that I'm picturing, I still trust you.
Yep.
And no joke, I've seen things and doors open up in front of me every time I do this that were not there before.
Yep. 100%. I 100% agree with you.
Excuse me.
My first experience with that actually started back before I got my diagnosis, because I had been going back and forth for almost a year trying to figure out what was wrong with me.
Wow.
I had no idea. And we finally got to this place where I had a needle biopsy, no conclusive evidence, and the tumor on my neck was just getting bigger and bigger, and it was crazy. And I was in more and more pain, and I was crying and all the things. And we finally got to the place where they took me in and I had surgery. They removed 2 lymph nodes. And within that week span of waiting for the results, I had it. I was done.
The wait is the worst.
Yes, I was beyond exhausted. But the interesting thing was, at no point within that was I worried about what was to come. I just wanted an answer.
Yeah.
And my husband took the boys to school. I wasn't allowed to go into the office for work. And my husband took the kids to school and went to work. And I had it. And I went into our living room and I dropped to the ground. And I just let it loose. And I stood up after a few minutes and I was like, you know what? We need answers, whatever it is. We just want the answer so we can move through it and get this over with, essentially, right? You just want to get this season over with because it sucks.
Yes, I know that well. I know well.
And I went like this and I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to surrender it. And I also believe in God, pray. I have very strong faith. And I went and I said, here, you can have it all. We just want answers. whatever I have to step through next, whatever our family has to step through next, we're going to do it because we know you're guiding us. And you're going to get us through.
Your path opened up.
There it was. They called. We had my diagnosis. My specialist oncologist was covered under my insurance. They sent me immediately up to Pittsburgh, and everything just started to unfold.
Work.
So you're 100% right. It's that control of the fear and what's going to happen next.
We can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing, the weight is something that you sit there and you want to get from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. And I don't think hard things work on that point, on that linear line. Like sometimes you're going to have this, okay, I have another mountain. Okay, I got a dip. Okay, I got this stuff. And we always beat ourselves up over the roller coaster, right? We always go, oh gosh, I'm down again. I'm up again. Can I just get a grip? And I think the thing is we just got to learn how to lean into it.
Yep.
And because that's really what we've had to do, because we've had, okay, he's okay. Okay, he's not okay. And this is over 14 years. We've never had that point A to point B. Okay, we started and we're done.
Yes.
So I've had to learn how to say, okay, we've started. Now we're doing one day at a time.
Yep.
And living one day at a time is a very different reality and sort of life, because you are not thinking years ahead. You're thinking, okay, today we're going to have the best day possible.
Yep.
My life has been so enriched living like that.
Yes.
I don't think I would have had such a, I don't know. I've had a joyful experience, like raising my kids. I've been there for every single thing on purpose.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Very different kind of life. And yes. I kind of feel like that was the gift, and that's continues to be the gift, that I'm paying attention.
Yes.
I'm trying to get somewhere in my future. I'm staying right here and saying, okay, this is good. We got a good day today. What are we going to do? Well, let's do something fun, right? Let's have some laughs and let's get it in. And we do.
Yep.
And so I think that's been our gift in all of it. And, I talk about some of that in the book, but I also talk about that roller coaster, right?
Yep.
I mean, how many times have you had that roller coaster where you're up and down and in your head, you're going, gosh, can I just get this over with? But I think that roller coaster teaches us how to lean in to the curves.
Yes.
How to not be so hard on ourselves. And
yep.
I just think that's so important to talk about, because I don't think anybody talks about you're either okay or not okay. Nobody talks about that in between, that gray area.
Yes. 100%. Finding that roller coaster and leaning into it.
Enjoy the ride somehow.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Hold on one second. We're about to get kicked off here. Let me